Do you like scary games? So do we. So we decided to join the Scream Secrets 1-week game jam and make our own narrative horror game. Hello, my name is Sandra.
And my name is William.
And we are a indie dev team called Isopoda Studios. And this is a devlog of how we made Inward Eye, a psychological narrative horror game. We've actually been wanting to do a horror game for a really long time since we both are super into it, but we haven't really had the right idea or the right, amount of time to do it. So when we found the Scream Secrets game jam, we knew it was time to make it. So we had 1 week to make this game, and the optional theme was It's Been There All Along. And I remember us talking about what type of game we wanted to do, and I think we ended up on the right idea quite quickly, but I don't really remember how. We knew that we wanted to make a sort of a narrative, psychological horror thing, rather than a game full of jump scares and monsters. And we have been watching Dexter lately, and I think that's really, that inspired our idea a lot, I think. And here comes the spoiler warning. If you don't want to know anything about the game before you play it, I suggest you go and play it right now or soon before you start watching the rest of this video, because here it comes. The idea we ended up on was sort of a story about a person and his family living in this apartment or house or whatever, and he gradually gets more and more agitated and hungry over the course of the game, and in the end he's so hungry he eats his family, which is kind of... Yeah, and obviously we didn't want this to be too obvious, so with the magic of narrative and just game design, we made that story come to life slowly without straight up telling the player what's happening. Since this was going to be a game about a very, very hungry man, we wanted the whole theme of the game to be about food, cooking, dinner, stuff like that, and we wanted that to be reflected in the mechanics as well. And what game do you think about when it comes to cooking, other than our dear Cooking Mama, which is just a game where you cook food. It's pretty much just a bunch of mini games where you prepare food, like you're chopping up stuff, you're boiling stuff, and anything like that. So we decided to just simply put a couple of simple mini games in between the narrative sections, just to break it down a little bit so that you don't get bored of just endless strings of text. So in one mini game you chop up some veggies, and in one mini game you stir the pot and stuff like that. We also wanted some interactions in the game so that you have a lot more stuff to do, so it's just not these two things, like you have narrative or you do the minigame. So we have a lot of interactions with the environment that we wanted to make. So you could try open a door, you could look at a painting and the character thinks something about it or says something about it, just to expand on the story and the narrative a lot more, and just so the player can explore and get to know what's going on their own. The mechanic that actually gave us the most amount of problems during this week was the dialogue system. Because the dialogue system was created entirely from scratch by my co-dev William, and when we started on it, we just thought, dialogue, text, put it in, make it roll, and it worked pretty well. But then later on we wanted to add a bunch of other things, like we wanted the dialogue to not continue on its own, so that the player could just press a button for it to continue, so that the player had enough time to read the dialogue. And we wanted animations to keep playing even though the timeline was paused, which created problems. And we wanted sounds connected to the text, and there was just a bunch of other stuff we wanted connected to the dialogue system. So I think he redid it like 3 times or maybe even more. But in the end we got something that worked pretty well for our purposes. Me, myself, I actually started writing the script day one, and I finished the script on day one as well, since, we got like 5 scenes that we wanted to create. We thought that was a good number to get the whole story told. But I mean, there's not a massive amount of writing that needed to be done, but a little bit. So it was simple enough for me to finish in one day. What I did is that I split up the scenes and then wrote down sort of what kind of interaction I wanted. And I wanted there to be a big contrast in between the beginning of the story and the end of the story. So obviously the end of the story was gonna be horrible and graphic and just, is bad. So I wanted to make sure the beginning of the story had a big contrast to that. So it starts out with everything being absolutely picture perfect, happy family. So they start out with our main character cooking his wife her favorite food, and they say I love you and everything's amazing. And then just slowly over these 5 scenes, it just goes a little bit or very much south with each one. I also wrote all of the interactions that the character has with the environment. And when it comes to both the dialogue between the wife and our main character and interactions with objects, what I wanted to do was to imply what was going on. So I just didn't want to go, oh, hey, he ate his family. So I want every interaction and every bit of text to sort of slowly build up the story and not be too obvious. So for example, when the player interacts with the bunny, he says, oh, my daughter loves the bunny. She takes it everywhere with her. But then you're like, so why is the bunny here and where's the baby? Some sort of like small hidden stuff like that. And while William kept working on all of the mechanics, I got started on all of the modeling. So I immediately started on getting the apartment model finished because that was the most important one. So we knew where everything would be at the end. So I did that and did all the texturing and stuff. And one thing that really helped a lot with finishing this game in a week was that we were actually planning on making a sort of thriller horror game years back. So I had made a bunch of apartment models for that game already, but we never actually made the game. And that was perfect because now we could use the assets for this game. We had like a fridge unit, an oven, table and chair, bookshelf and books, and just a bunch of shelves and the bed and stuff. So that was really nice. So I didn't need to model absolutely everything in one week, because there was already a lot of stuff that I needed to model for this game, such as the whole apartment, stuff for the baby like the chair and the crib, the little toy bunny, stuff for the kitchen like the pot, the knife. I needed to make food models, and I needed to make a different variety of chopped up food models as well. So that was a lot of fun actually, especially texturing the food was fun. The only stuff that I didn't create on my own was the plants, which we got from Unity Store. We had like 3 potted plants, and the character models, which the wife is from Mixamo and the baby is also a free asset. And we didn't care too much about what the wife or baby actually looked like, as long as we could pose them, because we knew that we were gonna make like a crazy shader to put on top of them to make them look ghostly, like apparitions. So they just generally needed to look like a wife and baby. And when it comes to those character models, the first plan was to just pose them, like one pose for each scene, but in the end, I do like animation. So I was like, I'll create some very simple animations for them, like really quick, simple animations. And I'm really happy that we decided to go for that, because I think it makes the scenes come alive way more. We experimented a lot with this shader on the characters, because at first we wanted it sort of to be black and just like all squiggly. I don't know how to explain that, but it didn't work very well in the scenes, because even though we put a light on them, you could barely see them when the shader was black. So in the end we just played around with it, or really William played around with it and found this cool effect with a lot of displacement and it's sort of glowing and stuff, and it just looks really cool. I'm super happy with it. On top of that, we added a shader for dissolving and the reverse reverse dissolving for when the apparitions come in and out of the scenes, which we're really happy with how that turned out. And also some particle systems to, I don't know, it looks a little bit like ashes floating up. And we also made particle systems for the pot, like there was some steam coming out of the pot, some bubbles in the pot. The soup splashes when you're stirring, and it just makes everything just come alive a little bit more. We honestly worked our asses off on this game. We worked overtime for these 7 days, and we actually got most of the way there in the first, let's say, 5 days or so. So we could spend the next, or like the last 2 days just fixing stuff, because there was a lot of stuff to be fixed, even though most of the stuff were in place. So obviously William had to redo the dialogue a couple of times. We had a whole notebook filled with notes on stuff that we wanted to change. There was a lot of animations for the cutscenes that needed to be done, and lights and post-processing. We were very adamant about having different types of post-processing for each for the scenes. So it's more warmer, more lovely in the beginning, and the end it's very noisy and chromatic aberration and stuff like that to make him seem more, he's losing his mind, you know. And the cutscenes kept breaking on us, so there was a lot of work on that. William worked very, very hard on that, so I'm thankful for that. There was also a lot of problems with baking the lights, and we actually didn't manage to fix that in the end, sadly. We only had 7 days. But in a perfect world, we would have kept working on fixing the light bake, make it look nicer. But yeah, this version that we got now is the best we could do with the time that we had. In the end, on the last day, William worked a lot on optimizing the game, getting rid of stuff that we didn't need, turning down the resolution on a bunch of textures, because damn, those take up a lot of space. And we got the size of the game down to a pretty good size, we think. And in the meantime, I started working on the itch.io page, because, you know, as soon as this game was done, we were submitting it to this game jam contest. So we also wanted the itch.io to look very nice. That took a while to do. And in the end, we submitted our game with, I think it was like 9 hours to go or something like that. It was in the middle of the night here in Sweden. It was like 2 a.m. or something. So yeah, we were planning on, like, if things went to absolute crap, then we would probably stay up all night. But luckily we had a pretty decent build at around that time, so we managed to get our game up, and then we went and had the best sleep of our lives. Then there was just a whole week of playing a bunch of other entries and rating them and getting feedback for our game, and it was just a total blast, honestly. People had made so many really cool games, and people have so many different ideas, and it's really inspiring, honestly. If you've never joined a game jam, you totally should. And on a Thursday morning, William asked me, should we have a look at the final, like the score, and what happened was that we ended up in 5th place, which is awesome, because there was like 146 entries or something like that, and getting 5th, wow, I mean, thank you, that's such a compliment. None of us have scored that high on a game jam before, so we're very, very happy and thankful for that. Super excited. That was our journey with Inward Eye and the Scream Secrets Game Jam. We want to say thank you so much to all the participants and Scream Zone for hosting the jam. We've had a blast and we really want to join again. And obviously, Inward Eye is free to play and available on itch.io right now. We will put a link down below so you can give it a try. There's actually a secret that's hidden in the game. Yeah, try to find it if you want. We also want to say thank you so much for watching and sticking around. It's been super fun to document this process, and we hope to do this with most of our games that we're going to be making in the future. So if you want to see more from us, why not subscribe or like or something like that? We would be very thankful. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.